artist. You might know my work from issues of Spider-Man. I've done some work on the X-Men, specifically Nightcrawler, more Spider-Man, did some work on Deadpool. Maybe you read Deadpool. I did even more Spider-Man. Currently drawing the Gwen Stacy series, on sale now, and then lots of different variant covers of some of your favorite Marvel characters. So Marvel has invited me to come and share my art process with you. So today we're going to draw an illustration of Wolverine, one of my favorite X-Men, one of my first favorite X-Men when I first started reading comics as a kid. Big Wolverine fan um, when I first discovered that character. So I'm going to kind of walk you through how I draw. I'm using a 9-inch by 12-inch piece of artboard, and I'm going to start sketching out the figure with this red mechanical pencil. We use this for a kind of a lighter underdrawing, and then I'll come in with my regular graphite pencil to do the finer details. So feel free to draw along, draw at whatever skill level you have, and draw with whatever tools you have available. So this is all about having fun, and maybe you'll pick up a tip or a trick or two. So I want to say welcome, so glad you're here, and let's get to drawing. So I'm going to start here with Wolverine's head. We're going to try to get the full body in here. So we're going to start with his skull, kind of get a good idea of the size of his head, and the shape of his head. And then we're going to kind of rough in where his body will be. So this is just the very initial stages of the artwork here. I want to make sure I get all the structure down first, and then start putting in the details. So once I get the head there, I kind of drop in a line straight down to the ground, or what will be Wolverine's ground that he's going to stand on, so that I can get an idea of where to fill in the rest of his body here. So we're just going to have him standing. This will be kind of like a style guide that I might use if I'm drawing a series. I'm drawing Wolverine. I'll do some practice illustrations, and I'll just draw kind of just a nice, clean image, static image of Wolverine standing, so I can see all of his costume details. Now, Wolverine has been portrayed in the comic books, cartoons, and in motion pictures. Now, my favorite version of Wolverine, and mind you, I like all the versions. I think Hugh Jackman was great as Wolverine in the movies. I think Wolverine, has, in the 3 different X-Men cartoons, he's been fantastic. But I gotta say, one thing I really like about the comic book version is that he's 5'3". So I'm gonna draw 5'3" Wolverine. I like him short and stocky, and how he's the shortest of the X-Men. I thought it was just a really cool, distinctive look. So I'm really going to go for that 5'3" Wolverine. So I work in like the pectoral muscles here, and start to work on his midsection here. Kind of got some abs going on. So it's starting with a boxy shape essentially here. We'll add the arms here momentarily. And then we have a big old belt there with a big X-Men logo that will go right about there. Feel free to draw along. Hopefully I don't go too fast. I'll try to be mindful that there are a lot of new young artists tuning in. So glad you're here. The main thing is to have fun. We're here to have fun today. So it doesn't have to be perfect. It's all about having fun. So make the shapes however you do. So just right now, I'm just roughing in the basic structure here. So we'll get to we got his trunks right here. And then we're gonna sketch here to his thighs. We're not gonna skip leg day. Got the legs here. Gonna kind of give him a bit of a wide stance. Wolverine is always battle ready. Never know when Sabretooth might come jumping out of a bush to attack you or something like that. So you never know when Omega Red might be creeping around behind some snow-covered hill. So So Wolverine's always going to be battle ready. So a little bit wider of a stance. Bringing that down to some knees here. So I'm keeping in mind the proportions for what would make Wolverine shorter and stockier. You know, he's not going to be as long and lean as Spider-Man. He's not going to be as tall and broad as Captain America, and he's certainly not going to be a big hulking monster like maybe say the Hulk. His name was right there in the adjective. So I'm going to keep those things in mind. So from his knees, we're going to have his calves, like a little shin bone and the calf muscles there, down to his feet. Feet can be a challenge to draw, so feel free to do the best you can. I kind of do this like a little bit of a rhombus, almost like a almost slanted triangle shape to give us a sense of the feet. Got some ankles. So it kind of gives us that foot vibe. Nice thing about working here in the structure stage is that we can make adjustments as we need. So feel free to erase and rework things. This is our chance to kind of really put the puzzle together before we commit to final details. Just want to make some adjustments to his head here. So we got one leg in. Let's get the other leg going. So kind of repeat the process. Kind of a muscular thigh that pulls closer. It kind of angles. Got some of the curves of the muscles. We're not drawing every individual muscle in right now. Just kind of a basic shape for the thigh. Down to that baseball sort of circular shape there for the knee. And then we'll draw in his lower legs. Little shin bone that runs on the inside and calf muscles curving out the outside down to some ankles. So this is the ground he's going to be standing on. Ankles down to his feet here. Again, that kind of bit of almost like a right triangle almost with the 90-degree side on the inside of his foot. And then some ankles popping off there on the sides. Those ankles be popping. That's kind of like the top of his foot. So these are my guidelines. So it helps me kind of figure out what shapes am I going to be working with. Find out the center of his face and the eye line there. We'll come in with more detail on the face and head here in just a little bit. Right now, we want to put some arms on here. Wolverine's pretty strong fella. You have to have some sort of strength if you're going to carry around an adamantium skeleton, adamantium lace skeleton inside your body. That's not a light metal, gang. That's a heavy metal. You're gonna get quite heavy when you got that sort of super strong metal encased over your bones. So I got a shoulder here. Got the initial shoulder circular. Oh, not quite circle. Like a circle. It's almost like a, what is that? Like you have a basketball that's deflated there on that side. Kind of a football shape for that bicep. And then the comes down. So that's our upper arm. And we have that tricep sticking off back there. And a lot of this will come into more detail when we get to the graphite. The regular pencil will help make these shapes more visible. But right now, these are just our simple shapes. And then we have this forearm, which is another circle, almost like football shape for the forearm muscles that then kind of pull down to his wrist. And then a fist is another little softball shape. We're going to have his claws popped. Hands can be a challenge to draw, so do the best you can. It's okay if it's not perfect. These are just kind of some general shapes here. We have a knuckle and a forefinger, and a knuckle and the middle finger, knuckle and the ring finger, knuckle and a pinky, and then a little thumb right there. So it was one finger, two finger. They all kind of overlap with each other. And then we're going to have some claws coming here. And they're going to kind of overlap too. So they'll be a little clustered together there a little bit. So let me re-angle those claws. Like I said, when we come in with the regular pencil, these details will be a bit more clear. But at least we know where the hand is and where the claws will be. So, just double checking my pectoral muscles I drew there, and now we're going to come in with the other arm. So we got that same sort of shoulder there. Just making those basic shapes. Bicep. The tricep will go on that outside part of his arm. And then for his forearm, another little football shape. Once we get these basic shapes in, we're going to start putting the details in, and Wolverine's really going to start coming to life, where he's going to really start to become more recognizable. We got that baseball shape right there for his other hand. Gonna figure out, kind of rough in where the glove might be. We got that first finger, second finger, third finger, fourth finger. From index finger all the way over to the pinky finger. And then his thumb right there. And then his claws. Coming out from the back side of his hand. Now let's get a little more detail into his face here. Make sure we know where his eyes, nose, mouth, all those pieces are going to go, and his mask, and then we're going to start putting in the details. So first up, I want to figure out his eyes. Give him some, they're kind of like almond shapes. You know, like kind of like a little football shapes, but we want them really thin, or not, well, as thin as you want, because we don't want to do circles. We want him to look like he's kind of maybe a little bit angry, a little bit determined, definitely gruff. So the nose line, roughly halfway from the eye line to the chin. And then the mouth line would be another halfway from the nose line to the chin, roughly. And so he has his mask that runs across that nose line. That will cover up his nose. We can put two little vertical lines right there. That's where he has his black mask, and the yellow part runs from the top of his head down to his nose. We have the jawline. The black part of his mask comes down the sides. And then we got his mouth here. We're going to draw kind of like a little bit of a grimace, bearing some teeth there. Give him some angry brows there. We'll have ears on each side, but I'm not sure how much of his ears we'll see, because Wolverine has that very iconic mask. You know the mask I'm talking about. Kind of just above his eye, kind of flares out to the side, kind of up at an angle, kind of a curved angle up. Then it comes back down and over to the back of his head. Very unique shaped mask. And we do the reverse for the other side. So angles up in kind of a curve. And then we come down. And then back over to like the bottom of his ear, roughly. So that kind of gives us our basic shapes for Wolverine. We can definitely start building his costume on top of this. We could give him and he's had so many different costumes over the course of, golly, almost 50 years, well over 40 years. I think Wolverine debuted in 1973, 74, somewhere around there. So we're going to go with his like 1992 look. Classic Wolverine look, where he's got those shoulder pads. So it's like a triangle that goes right over his shoulder. Another triangle that goes over that shoulder. And a little bit over this part of his shoulder, over that collarbone right there. And he's got these stripes. So it's a little thin triangle, very thin triangle, almost like a tiger stripe. So he is a Wolverine. But it's a tiger-looking stripe that pulls over his shoulders there. Then we have tiger stripes on the sides. And there's three, 1, 2, 3. And on this side, 1, 2, 3. Now, if this is going a little too fast for some of you new or younger artists, you should be able to, this live stream should be archived on Marvel's Facebook or YouTube channel, if not both. And you can come back and rewatch again and again so that you can pause, work on your sketch, then hit play again so that you can achieve what your end product has desired. But I know we have limited time here, so I want to make sure we get you the full art video within about an hour, I think is what we're shooting for. So he's got a nice big belt. And he's going to have that X-Men logo right there in the center. Mutant and proud. There we go. So that kind of gives us a lot of the basic shapes for Wolverine here. And now we can come in with the graphite pencil and we can start putting in the finer details. So I used red here for the underdrawing so that you could kind of see the basic sketch shape. So now I'll come in with my art pencil here. It's like a regular graphite pencil. Maybe you're using a number 2 lead pencil or a mechanical pencil. Anything's good. I'm going to come in and we're going to put in these nice, dark, clean pencil lines. So I'm going to start with his mask and kind of work from head down to toe. We're just going to pick all the lines we want to be the finished, clean line. Down his jaw to his chin. Little line right there to show the bottom of his chin. Kind of do the same thing on the other side. If y'all just joined the live stream, welcome. So glad you're here. My name is Todd Knock, and I'm a professional comic book artist. I work for Marvel Comics, drawing lots of different Marvel comic books, a lot of Spider-Man comics. I drew some Deadpool comics. I drew some Spider-Man comics. Nightcrawler and the X-Men comics. And I'm currently drawing the Gwen Stacy series for Marvel. Issues 1 and 2 are on sale now. So let's see, we'll get those almond-shaped eyes in here. Now, all this mask here is going to be filled in black. I like to know exactly where his brows are. So down the side there. Then coming over across his face. and then right down to his chin for the sides of his mask that connect to his face. Let's get that gruff grimace on Wolverine's face, and that bottom lip right there. Just put a nice little shadow bottom lip. Let's give him a little stubble here on his chin. Wolverine is a pretty hairy guy. He probably grows hair so fast with that mutant healing factor, his hair probably grows extra fast, so he'd probably have to shave after every meal if he wanted to stay clean shaven. That's how fast his hair could possibly grow, thanks to his mutant healing factor. Some little nostrils there underneath the nose part of his mask. Let's put in the top of his head here. So even though I drew in I sketched out the whole head, now I know exactly where I want the lines to show the top of his mask, the top of his head, the top of the skull. So even though I sketch in every line, I don't have to necessarily draw every line, but I want to know those shapes. So now we'll do the neck muscles that pull down the side to that little spot in between our shoulder bones. I think it's also called the clavicle. So they kind of pull right to there. And we'll go ahead and draw in those clavicles, shoulder bones. And we have the top of his shoulders here. Going to come down to those shoulder pads that we roughed in. So then we overlap those shoulder pads over his shoulders. Hence the term shoulder pads. Maybe put a little bit of a ridge on the shoulder pad. So he's angled just a little bit to our left there. Okay. And then we have those tiger stripes. We'll be filling these in black a little bit later as well. We'll wait until we get all the line work done, then we'll go in and we'll fill in all the blacks, just so that the art doesn't get too smudgy too soon. So now we're going to work on those pectoral muscles. Come from each side to draw, kind of shadow in the bottom shape, give a sense of that dimensional space. We're going to put in a little bit of a center line to kind of separate those two muscles. So we can pick the lines we want to convey the shape. We can get as detailed or not detailed as we want. A few little neck muscle lines there. Maybe there's a little bit of a shadow. We're going to shade in just a small little shadow underneath his chin, right there to the Adam's apple. Just because his chin would be casting a shadow down onto his neck, more than likely. All right, let's come and tackle this arm here. We're going to just continue from that shoulder pad, get the rest of that shoulder muscle drawn in. And his bicep, just using that football shape we established earlier as a guide. Now, I went to art school and I had life drawing classes, so I learned a lot of this in art school. And then I've practiced it day after day after day. And then once I got into the business as a comic book artist, I'm doing this day after day. So I've practiced this a lot in my life as an artist and in my career as a comic book artist. So I've got a lot of hours built up in my arsenal here. So a lot of these shapes come very natural to me. But if you're just starting out, this might feel a bit foreign to you. It might be a bit challenging. That's okay to feel the challenge. It's okay to feel the frustration. That's okay. That's because I felt it too. I still can feel that sometimes when I'm trying to work on a certain pose or a certain angle. just not working right. That happens to professionals as well as new young artists. So it's okay to feel those feelings. The main thing is to keep trying, to keep studying, to keep practicing. That's where we can start to get better at our skills. So even if it doesn't turn out perfect the first time or the second time or the 10th time, each time we work on our skills, the better chance we have at getting a little bit better and then a little bit better and then a little bit more better. So just keep practicing. And the main focus I like to have is having fun. Because if I'm having fun, I'm more than likely going to want to continue to draw. And if as long as I'm drawing, I stand that better chance of getting better. So I'm just going to have grace on myself for where my skill levels were at as a younger artist. Took me a while to learn this actually. Um, Went through a lot of years of frustration, some more inner muscles there in his forearms. Um, so, but as I got older, I kind of learned, you know what? It's okay to make mistakes. That's why we have erasers. All right, so now for the hands here. Hands are very challenging. I know a lot of people struggle with drawing hands. That is common. You're not alone. Hopefully, you're picking up a trick or tip or two here and helping you to learn how to draw hands a little bit better. So these are fists, and we have the housing for his claws. His claws kind of have a little housing guide on his the back of his glove. So we're going to kind of work in this first claw here, nice and clean, kind of curves a little bit. And then we got that first finger, that index finger. Then the back of the hand is right back here. This is a pretty challenging angle here. So do the best you can if you're following along. And then we have the thumb. The thumb is going to overlap those fingers. Can't tell you how many times I've made that hand gesture I have to draw. Like I make a fist and I look at it and I study the angles of the hand, of the fingers. What are the shapes that are being made? I do that all the time, depending on the angle that I have to draw my hand, so that I can try to get as much accuracy as possible. So then we have another knuckle that tucks behind this claw, because the claws go in between the first finger, the middle and ring finger, and the ring and pinky finger. So these three spots, those are where Wolverine's claws come out from. So we're going to draw that second claw in, kind of falls behind that first claw. And then we have, so these claws are going to start covering up our fingers as we move further and further away. I want to adjust that line right there, a little eraser, and we can take another swipe at these claws. There we go, that's a better shape. So then we have that middle finger, tucks right in there, that second finger goes right there. And then we can barely see that ring finger knuckle. We can barely see that other claw. But from this angle, we're creating a sense of depth to his hand. It's a subtle little area, but there's actually depth going on here because we have a claw in the foreground, middle ground, and then background, even though it's right there. And then we can't even see that pinky finger because by my rough guidelines I put in, I know exactly where the fingers would be. And then we can just put in the bottom of the ring finger and pinky finger. And now we have a fist with his claw popped. So let's come over here to this arm and try it again. This arm is a slightly different angle. We have that shoulder muscle. Again, my life drawing classes kind of helped me learn the basics. And then I started to develop my comic book style exaggerated approach. We got that bicep shape. Coming down here to the forearm. We have these inner muscles here, which are challenging shapes. These muscle striations took a while to learn. So feel free to do the best you can here. We have this kind of one, it's kind of like a, I don't know, would you call it almost like a little, it's almost like a fish. If we cut off the tail, here's the fish eye, the fish mouth. Cut off the tail, it's like a little teeny tiny cartoon whale without a tail or mouth or eye. But you can see here where it kind of cuts over, then down, and then a muscle that pulls through there, another one through there. And that kind of just gives us a basic feel for the forearm. Down to the wrist. Okay, so now we have another challenging wrist down to the fist. Let's go ahead and put the top of the glove on. We know where that is. And then his wrist here, his hand. We have that first knuckle and first finger. And that thumb is going to overlap. Thumbs overlap the fingers when we make a fist. Don't tuck your thumb inside the fist. We have that housing for the claw. And then that first claw pulling out, and see if we're going to overlap his leg a little bit. And we might see the top of that second finger. The little housing guide as the second claw pulls, overlap or falling behind the first claw. And then we have that third claw. From this angle, we can just see the tip of that third claw poking out on the other side. Then we have the third finger and that pinky finger sitting right there. Little wrist wrinkles for the cloth of the gloves, kind of bunching up at the wrists. All right, so now we can start working on his torso, his body here. We kind of have a wide body. He's a stocky guy. And we can just pull this line straight across. I like to give him a big, wide belt so we get a big X-Men logo. Really get a big X on there, and it looks really cool because the X-Men have been one of my favorite comic book superhero teams since I was a kid. So getting to draw that big X-Men X on there is a lot of fun. Like, yeah, X-Men. So we just kind of make a nice thick line for the belt buckle, a big black spot. And in it, from corner to corner, is the X. Just like that. Representing. So now we have the kind of the bread basket here is his six pack. This guy must work out. So see the little I'm not even sure what shape this is. It's not a rhombus. It's some sort of polygon sort of shape. Then we have his side stripes that all kind of meet at where it curves around his body, and it has the same kind of zigzag on the back. And we'll fill these in black a little bit later on. Let's get this side's stripes going. Little underarm muscle there from this angle, because his body's angled just a little bit that way. So now we're going to draw his trunks down to his legs. You can just pull down from the belt down to these thighs. Just going to put some wrinkle lines here from where his blue trunks. I remind you, if you just tuned in, I'm drawing a classic version of Wolverine's costume. This is the one you might see on the Wolverine or the X-Men the animated series from 1992. It's that style costume. going to pull these lines down. We're going to pull to the knee. So we have that baseball shape right there. Just going to kind of make a little bit of a diamond shape. So we have this thigh muscle that overlaps. He has several thigh muscles, the quad, and that's the only thigh muscle I can recall off the top of my head. As the one famous artist said long ago when I was learning how to break in, you don't have to, you just need to know how to draw the muscles. You don't have to know all the names of the muscles. Just know how to draw them. So I just focus more on the shape of them rather than the medical names. So, but I know there's the quad muscle that goes on top there. Maybe we'll indicate it just a little bit right there. Now we come down to his knee to his calf muscles. I forgot to rough in his boots. His boots kind of match his glove. I mean, not his gloves, his mask. They're the same color as his gloves. They're blue, but they have this black stripe with these flared out parts, like how his mask flares. So going right down the center of his boot, following down the angle of these triangular shaped feet, we have these black flares that kind of kick out. Let's go ahead and confirm that on the other side. So I just kind of draw a V underneath his knee. I draw a stripe that runs down his shin to the toe of his foot. And then I just angle over to the sides and then pull the black part down behind. If that went a little fast for you, like I said, if you just tuned in, feel free to watch the replay of this live stream. If there's any sort of tips or tricks you need to watch, pause, sketch, then hit play again. Gives you the option. So these live streams should live on Marvel's social media accounts. So those were those calf muscles I was talking about would be. So we got his knee. All right, so we can get back to drawing the details of his boots. Little bottom of the knee there. So now I can bring the flares out here. We'll fill in these black parts of his boots in just a little bit. Down the shins to the ankle. Have to be careful not to give him too thin or too thick of an ankle. Can adjust as necessary. In fact, I want to rework that line a little bit. Down to his feet. So remember how I made that triangle, that right triangle shape that was like that? It's going to kind of help me draw a three-dimensional foot. So I have the back part of his foot, which is his heel, and then his ankle is there, and then that's kind of the inner part of his foot, and then this is the toe part of his foot, and this is what I like to call the bottom part of his foot. And then we can bring that center line down, little shin bone there, and then bring that center line down, kind of running right down the angle, this part of the angle of the triangle down to the toe. Little wrinkles there on his boot. So we do the same thing, but a mirror image on the other side. So inner thigh coming down to the knee. Remember that diamond shape we made of the knees? We drew a circle, but we make the kneecap a little bit more of a diamond shape. And then we have this thigh running behind his claws. We have his calf muscles here. From here, we can pull up a little inner thigh muscle there. Just a shadow of the inner part of the quad. Now we're going to work these boots. Do the black flare part out first. Pulling that shin down to that ankle. Pulling this shin down to that ankle. And then down to the foot. Then down. So we have that right angle. That right angle. It's the right angle, and then that triangle diagonal shape there. So we're pulling that to the other side. So we have the back of his foot, inside of his foot, and bottom of his foot. And then we can bring that stripe right down the center. And so we're hugging closer, a little closer to this outer side of his foot to create a three-dimensional. So that would be like the top of his foot. We have the wrinkles there around his ankles. Oh, and let's finish off this side of the flare there. So we got a lot of the basic line art here down for Wolverine. So what we can do now, come in here and can start shading in the black for all the black parts of his costume. So we can just fill that all in with black. So a full black mask. And we have these tiger stripes on his shoulders. So a lot of people ask me on my YouTube channel, how do I render metal? How do you make something look metal? If you want to watch me on YouTube, you can find me at Todd Knock on YouTube. So I leave this top part open. It's like reflecting the world around him. So this is the sky area. And then this black part is kind of the horizon of the land. And then I do a little fade like this. And that gives it kind of a shiny chrome sort of feel. And then I can do the same on the other side. So sky, horizon, you can make this whatever shape you want. And then faded lines, thick to thin, going down. It gives you a sense of a metallic chrome-like texture. We will put a few little detail lines here on his muscles, kind of create a gradation from light to dark. Let's see. We have these tiger stripes. To fill in black on each side. It's fun to start filling in the black because then it really starts to get more solid, more grounded. It's like there's more for the eye to play with. Maybe pull some little detail lines here on the belt to convey the curve of the belt going around his body. His costume is yellow, so the mask and his chest and the pants here are going to be yellow. So we'd leave that open for yellow, but then we have the black parts of his costume. But then for the blue parts, we put just a few dark spots in to give it some contrast here. So on the inner side of his glove, we're going to put a little shadow running along these muscles. We can thicken up some lines to give some shadow. It kind of conveys that blue is a little bit darker of a color than yellow. Doesn't always have to be, but this shade of blue, I think, would fall in that category. Maybe a little bit of dark right there on his thumb, and that kind of creates a little three-dimension. We have the top of his thumb and then the side of his thumb there. We can come over and do the same thing on this side of his hand. So it matches, but in reverse. The mirror image, I should say. So just kind of pulling from those muscles, little inner part of this meaty part of his hand, right there. This angle of his thumb, because the light is kind of hitting there on the top part of his thumb, but the thumb that then tucks over might be a little more shadowed. Maybe a little shadow here on his fingers from behind the claws. Maybe a little seam to the glove. Now for his trunks, they're blue too, so we want to put some of this shadow through here. So a little bit through the bottom part of the trunks. Just going to kind of have some wrinkle there. Up to the center of his trunks. Maybe a little bit on the side, kind of pulling towards that leg muscle there. Maybe along these wrinkles, we can have a little bit more blue, or a little more black for that blue, what I mean to say. So that kind of gives a little differentiation of what would be color. And if you decide to color your Wolverine, go for it. Color with markers, crayons, watercolor, whatever you like to color with, go for it. This is your drawing of Wolverine. Make it look how you want it to look. So then we have the black parts of his boots. So we're going to fill these in with all black. All the way down the stripe, all the way down to his toe. And we can, since his boots are blue, just like his gloves, we can put a little shadow in here on the inside of his legs, inside of his feet, maybe a little bit inside the calf muscle right there, just to give it a little darkness, little depth. And then let's do the same, but in mirror image on his other boot. Fill in the flare, fill in the stripe. Then put a little shadow here on the inside of the leg, down to the ankle, inside of the foot, like the heel area, the top of the foot. A little bit of what would be that kind of calf muscle flaring out to the side. Again, if this is going a little too fast for you, come back for the replay. Watch the replay, pause on a certain area, work on your sketch, then you can hit play again and continue on. So if things get a little too fast, there's no harm in doing the rewatch, where you can pause and play at your leisure. So do come back for the rewatch if you're drawing along and you missed a step or two, or it got a little too challenging. That's okay. Please come back. It should live on Marvel's either YouTube and or Facebook. So we have one more level of detail here. One of my favorite levels of detail. Got to sharpen my pencil real quick. Remember earlier when I was saying that Wolverine's kind of a hairy guy? I really want to bring that hairiness home. So here on his arms, we're going to give him some hairy arms. So I'm going to do these little hair lines pulling in a curved motion around the outsides of his arms. Can be a really fun detail. And see, they're all kind of going in a pattern here. Kind of a sideways line, a horizontal line that kind of curves around the muscle. It helps define the shape and form of his muscles. So I think about what is the shape and how would these lines curve around? That's one side. Let's come and do the other side. Hope you don't mind me turning my paper here a little bit. Still on screen? Yeah. So we're going to do that muscle there. Then we curve around that muscle. Then we curve around this muscle. And then we curve around this muscle. And it's really fun. I really just think it's such a fun thing to do because it creates a lot of great detail for the viewer's eyes. It's fun to see all the hair. It makes them look unique. And it helps define the shape and form of his muscles. in a fun way. And it's just kind of fun just to do these little lines as a texture, just like that. And then I can just take my signing pen. I can write my name on here and today's date. And that's Wolverine. That's the finished product there. I hope you had fun drawing along. I hope you maybe learned a tip or a trick or two. Thanks for joining us here for the Marvel Art live stream. I definitely had a lot of fun, and this has been a great time. If you want to see more of my art, you can check it out on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Todd Knock, to see some of my art videos if you had fun with me here today. And be sure to stick with Marvel for more art live streams. I'm sure they might have scheduled coming up. Thanks so much for joining me. My name is Todd Knock. Keep on drawing, keep having fun.